I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all, the version 2.6 banners for Wuthering Waves look absolutely stacked, and it's incredibly hard to decide who to pull for, considering almost every single banner in this update is absolutely insane. So I'm going to be going past every single character so you can decide who to prioritize pulling on your account. The first character to talk about is obviously going to be the very first new character in this update, being Augusta. Augusta is our brand new Electro main DPS character, and this time with a little pinch of heavy attack damage. Augusta is a character that is very hard to find an actual flaw in, because this character looks absolutely insane. She's got strong AoE, she's got good free-to-play team options, and is looking to be a strong option in both Tower of Adversity as well as Whimpering Wastes. Augusta is going to be built all around trying to get up her second Enhanced Liberation to deal a massive amount of electro damage to the enemy while time is stopped. She will be doing this only at the very end of her rotation, however, meaning that a lot of Augusta's damage is going to be locked to the very end of her field time. So in game modes that have really low HP, like early tower floors, Augusta might not perform as well as characters like Zani, who do damage a lot more consistently throughout their rotation. But most forms of endgame aren't really about these low HP enemies and are more so focused and tailored towards either killing a boss that has a lot of HP, or killing endless waves of small mobs, being Tower of Adversity and Whimpering Wastes respectively. Augusta even has a bunch of utility in her kit, because she's capable of shielding your entire team, which is honestly kind of just I don't know, why does a DPS have this? Why is she a DPS and a sustain? I don't know, but it does mean that Augusta is going to be an extremely safe character to play. If you're not that good at the game, you can pick up Augusta very safely and just kind of go through the motions while the enemies are kind of just trying to tickle you. So for her versatile team options, her ease of use in gameplay, and most likely her incredible damage, I'm going to be giving her a rating of S. Moving on to the next DPS character, Carlotta. Now Carlotta I can speak about with a lot more certainty because, well, she's already out, and she has been for quite a while. And after all this time, Carlotta is still renowned as a top tier DPS, and this is for good reason. Carlotta is one of the best boss killers in the entire game, having ridiculous damage output, comfortable rotations, and also just very fast gameplay. She also features a lot of movements and range within her kit, meaning that as long as the boss is not glacial resistant, Carlotta is going to be the safest and the most consistent damage dealer for the fight. Even when her damage output has been power crept at this point by primarily Carlotta, she still finds herself to be one of the most used DPS characters in the entire game, especially within Tower of Adversity. Now I will say that she does have a weakness, being that her AoE is not exactly the greatest. But let's be real here, even in the only AoE game mode, being Whimpering Wastes, Carlotta still gets herself very comfortable clears, simply because she manages to brute force her damage so much that she's very capable of getting good clears even in the AoE game mode. She's also not super reliant on her signature weapon, being able to do almost everything I said rather easily with Static Mist. She also has multiple sub-DPS options. Her best in slot is obviously Zhezha, but you also have characters like Brant, Cantarella, Taocha, Yang Yang, and Sanhua as other options, assuming that you do not want to get Zhezha. While their synergy is not as powerful as something like an Augusta with Mortefi, it's still very serviceable. Carlotta has proven herself time and time again to be an incredible DPS character, even as time has gone on, so I cannot give her anything below an S tier rating. And that brings us to the final character in the first phase of version 2.6, being the almighty Shorekeeper. What is there to say about this character that has not been said yet? She is best in slot in a ridiculous amount of teams, and while she has been losing relevance as of late, due to some teams replacing her, she is still an excellent alternative in almost every single one of those teams. If she's not best in slot, she's the second best in slot. This character is the literal only one that I am safe to call a must-pull character, because even if you are primarily playing teams like Triple Fusion and Frolova, or let's just say Triple Fusion, Frolova, and Carlotta, every single other DPS is still going to want to use Shorekeeper. Let's say you picked up a Camellia, Guess what, Shorekeeper user? Oh, you want to use your Zani? Well, your rover is busy with Carlotta, so guess what? Shorekeeper. You want to pick up basically any crit DPS? Shorekeeper is almost always an option. So despite her relevance decreasing over time, she's still the best character in the entire game. Oh, what's that? You already have a Shorekeeper? Pull for S2! It's one of the best sequences in the entire game. You literally cannot go wrong pulling for a Shorekeeper, unless you already have S2 and her weapon. Actually, scratch that! Her third sequence is also really powerful. Trust me, you quite literally cannot go wrong pulling on the Shorekeeper banner. This is the only banner I could ever call a 100% safe investment 99% of the time. If I were to give her anything other than a double S rating, I would be trolling. Please get Shorekeeper if you do not have her yet. And that brings us to the second half of the update, starting with the other new character coming this update being Iuno. Now, one unfortunate thing that I do have to say here is that it wasn't entirely clear what Iuno does in the livestream. What we do know is that Iuno is capable of healing, and she increases her own damage. She is also able to boost damage, which to me implies that she is a sub-DPS character. Because, let's be real here, a full-on support like Shorekeeper or Verena wouldn't really be boosting their own damage, now would they? What exactly she is capable of buffing wasn't stated in the livestream, simply saying that she was capable of boosting damage. But if I had to make a guess, given how much Iuno and Augusta are already paired in the story, I'm assuming that Iuno is going to be a heavy attack buffer for Augusta. But because she is Arrow and not Electro like Augusta, I'm gonna have to assume that it's a full-on heavy attack buff instead of an Arrow heavy attack buff, which would mean that Iuno has a pretty versatile selection of teams, being good with every single heavy attack DPS in the game, ranging from Phoebe to GN to Zani, which are all pretty good DPS characters if you ask me. However, I think that if this is the case, Iuno would have one big issue, which is that she is competing with one of the best 4-star characters in the game, Mortefi. Mortefi is our current quintessential heavy attack buffer, but what people often forget about is that Mortefi does so much more than just buff heavy attacks. He runs Empyrean Anthem, which will buff the entire team's attack. His S6 also buffs the entire team's attack, and he has access to the weapon Static Mist. And Static Mist is a very good buffing weapon with a crit substat. Mortefi is a very hard character to beat, and I'd have to see Iuno do a ridiculous amount of damage in order for her to be worth pulling over just using a Mortefi. But knowing Kuro Games, she probably is going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage. They didn't reveal much during the livestream, so I cannot be comfortable giving Iuno anything more than a B recommendation, especially since if she is indeed a heavy attack buffer, she will be competing with a very powerful 4-star alternative. But I could very well be wrong once she releases in-game. And that brings us to the second character during the second half of version 2.6, being Ciaccona. Now, Ciaccona is a character that we have in-game, and thank the lords that we do, because this character has a lot of use cases that you wouldn't be able to guess just from getting short descriptions of her kit. Ciaccona is the primary sub-DPS for arrow erosion teams, as well as being a very viable character when it comes to Spectrofrazzle application, actually having the highest amount in the entire game. Ciaccona is a very powerful character for a lot of reasons. First of all, she has synergy with some of the best DPSs in the entire game. Not only is she a massive increase over Thundah when it comes to Carlotta, who is in my humble opinion the best DPS in the game at the moment, she also enables you to use DPS Phoebe within Whimpering Wastes. And outside of that, she is also a very good partner when it comes to main DPS Phoebe just in general. Ciaccona has the very unique utility that not a single other character has of being capable of applying DOTs within an AoE in multi-wave while off-field. She doesn't exactly do a coordinated attack, but she does remain on the field and is able to do a tick of damage, which will apply either Spectrofrazzle or Arrow Erosion once every approximately 1.5 seconds, meaning that Ciaccona is the only way for you to get consistent Spectrofrazzle on enemies within a multi-wave game mode like Whimpering Wastes, thus making Ciaccona essentially required for playing main DPS Phoebe within the game mode. She also has way more utility than just multi-wave application, because her Ultra skill is capable of buffing area erosion by 100%, meaning that any character who does area erosion damage or focuses a lot on area erosion like Carlotta is going to appreciate Ciaccona a lot. She also has additional utilities like being able to group enemies, as well as having an arrow damage bonus buff within her kit, thus making Ciaccona one of the most versatile sub-DPS characters in the game, not only being good with Carlotta and Phoebe, but also being good with any future arrow DPSs or existing ones like GN. However, her role as a sub-DPS inherently makes her more replaceable, by Spectre Rover within the Phoebe team, Mortefi within the GN team, and while she is a very large increase for Carlotta is incredibly powerful at a baseline and doesn't exactly need the upgrade. So I wouldn't say she has as much value as an Augusta or a Carlotta, and therefore I'm gonna give her an A. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. If you just want to see more of me as a person, be sure to check out my second channel, on which I primarily talk about punishing Grey Raven, but will kinda just make a video on whatever I feel like. But that'll be all from me. Peace.